Hello. After going through the modules this week, I want to focus mainly on Peggy McIntosh's article. She states from the beginning, she mainly talks about men's unwillingness to notice that they're overprivileged, even if they acknowledge that women are disadvantaged. So in that case, men can acknowledge that women aren't as strong as they are or aren't as smart as they are, but they'll never lessen themselves or they'll never degrade themselves as men, specifically white men. Men often say that they'll try to make changes to support women, right? So to enhance women's statuses, whether it's in society, in a community, in school, in a workplace, or when it comes to their education. But they make the decision to not or say that they can't acknowledge the concept of decreasing men's statuses. For example, something that I think of when I think of men being more advantaged than women, if a man or a white male were to go be a firefighter or a cop, they are more likely to get the job because they're a male, they're stronger physically, they may be smarter depending on the situation. Men are viewed as stronger in each category compared to women. As if a woman were to go in and try and get a job as a cop or a firefighter, they could be looked at as weak or not smart enough or not strong enough mentally, emotionally, or physically. And then Peggy also looks at the advantages that men gain from women disadvantages. So men can look at women sometimes and feel like they are overpowering women. And a lot of men are okay with that. A lot of men are okay with always being top dog and always being at the top and being better in every category over a woman. In my opinion, especially growing up with just my dad, I was always taught to be, strong mentally, physically, emotionally, just like anyone should be taught. But I never really had the advantage of being like a woman where I could be sensitive, where I could express how I feel, or I could be emotional, right? Men being in denial of them overpowering women can almost be like a comfort or a protection for male privileges, from their privileges being noticed or them needing to be decreased or completely eliminated. Overall, doesn't matter on what the circumstances are, white people will always have some type of privilege over colored people. That's always how it's been. It's sickening. The equality rates and standards are not what they're supposed to be. White people have always got treated better than people of color or minorities, which is disheartening, and I think it's gross. Peggy compares and says that whites are carefully taught not to recognize white privilege as males are taught not to recognize male privilege. To me, that was the quote that really stood out to me. I thought it was super empowering, and I think it kind of like opened my eyes. She took something that was so serious and so big and focusing on race, and then she took it and she compared it to focusing on gender, which I think was very clever of her. And then she also states that her coworker, she had talked to her or one of her classmates, and Elizabeth Minnick, which was her coworker, had stated that whites are taught to think of their lives as morally neutral, normative, and average, and also ideal. So that when we work to benefit others, this is seen as work which will allow them to be more like us in an instant. So in that case, white people are taught to think that their life is just normal, right? That's how things are for them. Things are just, neutral. They wake up every day and they have these privileges, but they fail to realize that not everybody is as fortunate as they are. Peggy goes on to speak about her strategy that she uses in everyday life, so to help her identify her daily white privileges. Some of the things that she speaks on that she's absolutely certain about definitely stood out to me, and I can definitely relate to them. A couple of these things were my children will be given curriculum materials that testify to the existence of their race. Some students may be more fortunate than others when it comes to buying things for school, or even when it comes to getting a specific education in general. Another one was finding a publisher for this piece on white privilege. Many authors, especially of colored people, can have a hard time finding somebody to read what they wrote or to listen to what they have to say. When it comes to having a white privilege, it may be a lot easier for them to get something published or for them to speak on something. And I think nowadays it's super important that everybody has the equal right to speak on how they feel or speak on their point of views on situations. She also states, whether I use checks, credit cards, or cash, I can count on my skin color not to work against the appearance of financial reliability. It is often that a person of color can go into a bank and they may get, funny looks, or they may get denied because of their race, their ethnicity, their skin color. Whereas if a white person were to walk into a bank, or if they were to try and get a credit card, they may be approved because they look a certain way or because they talk a certain way compared to other people, which is extremely unfair. A big one that she did state was, I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. I have seen multiple videos about this of people of color simply minding their own business in a store, shopping just like an everyday person would, minding their own business. And they're getting followed, they're getting harassed, they're getting accused and racially profiled just because of how they look or just because of their color or the way that they talk. Compared to if a white person were walking around and shopping just like an everyday, nobody would follow them, nobody would harass them, nobody would ask to check their bag. I think that's a big one because especially at my store, we make it known that you can't do that. It doesn't matter, especially with the policy being that you can't do anything if somebody steals. It doesn't matter. You can't harass anybody. In my store, I don't care what race, gender, whatever you identify as, no harassment, no following anybody, no accusing anybody of anything. I think Peggy plays a great role when she comes to speaking on all of these topics, and she hits the nail on the head when it comes to that. So I was very impressed, and she opened my eyes about a whole different new concept with her article. So, thank you.